Good morning and a belated welcome to the new year 2022. And well, we're going to do another building project for you, but it's been a little bit of a problem to decide what to do this time. So here were the options. The first one's a bit frivolous. Number two, son bought me this for Christmas, and it has one major drawback, that it's not a train. So we'll get rid of that one. It's got 450 parts. It's quite a big project, that, but we'll put that to one side. So I could have built something for the SR7mm group for Jeff, but I've already built one, and I've got a David Andrews kit for one of these. It's an L-class Wainwright Mortzell L-class 440. I could have built that, it's here, but I haven't got any of the necessary bits for it. I haven't got the wheels or the motor yet for it. I haven't got round to ordering it, so we'll put that to one side. So I'm being a bit of a tease this morning. I wanted, sorry, it landed on Boris's head. Oh, so I just moved. I did want to build this, which is a Gladiator Q6 080 class freight engine. I did want to build this next, but I've got all the bits for this, except I'm not overly happy with the connecting rods, the coupling rods that are included in the kit. And I want to make it sprung, and I'm not really confident enough to actually cut up the rigid coupling rods that are included in the kit. So I've ordered some from Premier, and Ian Allen is seeing if he can design some for me to have cast for later. So I'm afraid the Q6 has got to go to the wayside, and I've done all my research. I've got my Yeadon and everything for which one we were going to do. It was a Bladen locomotive, and we'll still do it. It's 63399, and we will do that maybe later in the year. So what have I decided on? Well, I'm afraid it's another DJH kit, one that I've had in stock for a little while, and it is a BR Standard 2 Class 260. In fact, it is this one. This one is 78018, which is probably the most famous locomotive of this class, or was the most famous of this class. It is still in existence. It's preserved. That picture, the colour picture, was taken at the Great Central Railway, and those of you who know and are familiar with it, this is a still from the famous snowdrift at Bleathgill, and this is 78018, and it was only a month old when this happened. It was introduced in March 1954, and this happened in April 1954, so the locomotive was virtually brand new when this incident happened. Incidentally, I watched the film again the other night, just out of pure curiosity and love, really. If you're not familiar with British transport films, really you should delve into them and have a look at the personnel. If you follow these films and see the personnel involved, well, the three guys who actually made that film back in 1954, they went on to do some amazing stuff. One of them filmed the opening sequence of Chariots of Fire, and won an Oscar for that. Another one did Michael Jackson's Thriller video. So these guys, they started out making films about trains and ended up in Hollywood. So virtually all of them have passed on now, but they got their grounding in making films about railways and ended up doing some of the best known Hollywood blockbusters of the 70s, 80s and 90s. But I digress. So what we're going to do, we'll build that, and this is the kit, and it is one of the older DJH kits. It's K301. They only start at 300, so it is the second kit that they did. Now, what's in the box? You get the instructions, which have been slightly reformatted so that they look like the modern ones. So they've got the blue. Originally they were monochrome, but instead of getting sort of loads of exploded diagrams, you actually get some written text this time. And the actual assembly drawings are quite, well, you could almost say cluttered, but again, these were the original DJH kits, and they were just sort of coming to grips with it. Now, you've seen from the later ones that they're far more well laid out, but these are very much cluttered. But we've built early DJH kits before, I have, so it shouldn't be too difficult. We've done our research, and if you're going to build a BR standard, you can't do much worse than getting a copy of these books. I've got volumes 1 to 3. There's actually 5. The last volume is purely about the 210Os, the 9Fs, but I'm never going to get round to building one of those. And the first one is sort of like a general, how can I put it, sort of like a general survey how they came about. This particular book is very, very detailed, and in effect the 78XXX class was the LMS 260 class, that, you know, the 46 XXX class that came about, and is just built to a different loading gauge. And then you will see as we go along the major difference, if we can see on this picture, is that the top of the cab is angled in, which gave it a greater route availability. But that's really the only major visual difference. Everything else is common to the LMS type locomotive, and even these instructions at the start, the general notes are about the IVET locomotive rather than the BR one, because there's hardly any difference between the two. So what is in the box? Well, what is in the box is that I've got a motor which I got from MSC. We have got, so I just open all these. I haven't actually opened these packages because I know roughly what's in them. Having built the IVET 262, it's very similar to that. So what we have is, we have cast boiler and a firebox which go together. There's a little bit of a flash on that, but nothing too major to get rid of. Just put that back. I ordered plates from Narrow Planet months ago, last year in fact, so they've been around for a while. They have a pre-folded foot plate, which is very useful, although I have got a tool. I could have done this if it was flat, but that comes pre-bent for you. And then the usual bags of castings, brass bits, hardware, nuts and bolts, lots of white metal fittings, even more white metal fittings, even more white metal fittings, even more white metal fittings, and white metal fittings. The front foot plate is cast. Wire, brass rod, nickel silver rod, and glazing material as usual. Frames, and these are the old style motion bracket. I think that's the old one. Oh no, that's the new one. Right, I've got to explain this to you. Originally, when these kits came out, they were wide over the motion bracket, and I mean, if I could get my Iver 262 out, you will see that it is over wide, so the motion bracket sticks out wider than the foot plate. So what they've done is to make the locomotive look more prototypical. There is a new etch for the motion bracket. The motion bracket is actually on this nickel silver etch. You can probably see it at the top here. It's difficult to see because there's two frets in here, but the original motion bracket is on these etch, but we're not going to use that because we're going to use the proper, the one that is correct, the correct width. It's a bit of a double-edged sword. They made the motion bracket, the original motion bracket, wider so that it wasn't so constrained for the front wheels behind the boiler and the crosshead supports. But like I said, it is quite a bit wider. It's like 5 or 6 millimeters wider. So you've got a 3 millimeter wide bit in the middle of the locomotive, which doesn't look very good. So, but we'll do that. We know how to. I know how to get over the problem with the with the front motion bracket. So we'll cross that bridge when we come to it, when we make the chassis. More etches. That's the cab and the tender tank. And then there's another bag of etches which has got all their various other bits in, like the draw hook, other fittings for the tender side frames and everything. And then right at the bottom there is a very delicate white metal strip, which is the outside of the, let's find a picture so I can show you. Find a decent large picture. Right, this one will do. The white metal strip is actually this part here. It's the pipe cover. So, and that's what's in the kit. And in a box over here we have got if I'm very careful so it doesn't collapse everywhere. We've got from Slater's we've got 3 sets of drivers, which they make the correct 15 spoke driver. We have got a 3'6" bogey wheel, and we've got 3 of those for the tender, and we have got a 3'9" spoke wheel for the pony at the front. And unusually for a kit, this particular kit, you need 2 sets of pickups because it picks up off the tender. Now you don't have to fit them, but I'm going to fit them. They recommend fitting them, so I'm going to fit them. If you want to do a split chassis version, you can do a split chassis version, but I'm going to fit both sets of pickups, and also we're going to make it sprung. So we've got a set of Slater's horn blocks. The frames, I checked this earlier when I had a look. The frames are etched for you to have a guide as to where you need to cut out to fit horn blocks, so it should be relatively easy to make it a sprung chassis. So that is what the project's going to be. It's going to be a BR Standard 2MT 260 78018, the locomotive that was in the pit film Snowdrift at Bleathgill, and it was based at the time at Kirkby Stephen, which was at the time 51H. It became 12D in a little bit later, but at the time that we're doing it was 51H, and so that's what the next project's going to be over the next couple of months. So that's about it. That's a little bit of an announcement, and now that the year is new and people are getting over illness, I had the lurgy over Christmas and my wife has got it at the moment downstairs. Now that we get over it, then there should be more programs appearing on the Gauge Guild YouTube channel, so keep an eye out to see what appears, and I hope that will keep you entertained and engaged for the rest of 2022 even. Thank you for watching.